Like, the politics are very different in the feds. It's crazy the way things go. Like, when I first got to Hazelton, the SIS guy interviews you, they find out who you run with. You know, you're in the Boston con. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm from Boston, so I guess so. And he's like, all right, well, your guys will tell you how everything runs when you get out there. And he said to me, he said, but I will give you this little advice. I would suggest getting a knife as soon as you can. And he said, because it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Like, this is a cop telling me that. Yeah. And I'm like, this is crazy. And then like a week later, I watched the Mexicans kill somebody right in front of me. So I was like, okay, this is where we're at. I might not come home. Like, I might not make it home. Yeah. You know, whether someone kills me or I kill them or however it goes, like, there's a very real possibility I don't make it out of here. You know, and that's why, like, I was getting high early on and like just doing whatever, because like I was like, well, you know, this is gonna be my life maybe forever, you know?
Hey everybody, welcome to the Bounce Back Podcast. I'm your host, B. Luke. I got a special guest with me today. Why don't you tell the people your name, where you're from, and a little bit about yourself?
So my name's Billy Coleman from South Boston. Tough upbringing from D Street projects. You know, my dad was murdered when I was 3 years old. You know, my mother was an addict. We had, she was like my best friend, but we had up and down relationship. You know, she made a lot of bad choices, especially when it came to men in and out of the foster care system when I was little. Just all the wrong role models around me, people that were supposed to teach me the right thing, showing me all the wrong things to do. A lot of my friends went to DYS and stuff, right? I was lucky, I guess you could say. I never really got caught doing anything when I was little. Okay. And it was like that luck ran out. The second I turned as an adult, that luck ran out. And in and out of South Bay, like 5 county bids, you know, like literally up the ladder, you know, from 30 to 60 to 90, you know, just on and on until 18 months. And then upstate, 2 state sentences, like back to back. You know, I think I was out like 10 months between the 2 state bids, out for 15 months and back to the federal prison now, you know, for 10 years.
Talk about how long it is you've been out of federal prison, and then talk about some of the highlights of some of the things you've been up to since then.
It's crazy. I thought about this the other day. Someone asked me that, and I've been out almost 5 years, which is wild to me. It was a rough road, and you know, in the very beginning, coming home, there was definitely some ups and downs. A couple little relapses in there, like, you know, nothing like on a run or nothing, but like, you know, a day here, a day there, you know, and I just caught myself quick. You know, I have a great support system that I put together since I've come home. You know, I came home to nobody. My mother died. I was two years into my federal sentence. My mom died. And, you know, at the time, both my sisters were in active addiction. One of them is no longer, you know, one still is. I had my brother, but he had his family and stuff. So I pretty much came home by myself, had to figure everything out on my own. And I did. You know, I for the most part, like I did, you know, me and my now fiance, got together. We've been together almost 4 years now, known each other since we were kids, dated when we were young, reconnected after 30 years, you know, when I came home. And she's been like the main thing supporting me, the main person supporting me, right? My biggest cheerleader.
Talk about how important that support is. You know, some people may not know how important it is to support somebody that's coming home from prison, especially after a long time.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. It's everything. If you don't have a good support system coming home from prison, especially after doing a long time, I mean, the chances of you making it are that much slimmer. You know what I mean? It's tough for people to support us too. You know what I mean? Like, it was tough on her end as well. Like, trying to figure out how to support me, right? And you know, without hurting herself too much. You know what I mean? You know, it's definitely tough, but without that support system, I wouldn't be here today, I don't believe. Like 2 years left of my 10-year sentence, something hit me. You know, I woke up one morning and like, I was just in a real reflective mood. And I told my cellmate, like, listen, but I need to cell for a little bit. And he stepped out. I put the towel up and just like put the music on. I was looking out the window at, you know, the yard and the barbed wire fences and, you know, all the people out there. And I just thought to myself, like, man, this is what you have to look forward to for the rest of your life, if you're lucky to make it back here, you know? And I'm like, I can't do it. Like, I've given too much of my life to this, you know what I mean? And it's just not what I want to do anymore. So that last 2 years, you know, I stopped messing around in there too, because, you know, I was getting high in there and, you know, fresh 10 years, I didn't think I was going to come home, to be honest, you know? So yeah, I stopped getting high in there and just read, worked out, kept myself, my mind right. And when I came home, hit the ground running and just.
So did you start developing an exact plan for your release, like a place you were gonna go? Maybe did you have work lined up, or talk about that, or maybe like the journey to get work, because that's not always easy neither for people.
So I honestly I didn't I just knew that I couldn't do that no more, right? I knew I didn't want to go back to that life. I didn't want to be in the streets. I didn't want to be committing crime, getting high, none of that. And so when I came home, I kind of formulated my plan. First when I first came home, I was married still to my now ex-wife, and that was like just a horrible, treacherous relationship that I should have never been in. And I knew I shouldn't have came home to her. Like, I knew it was gonna go all bad, which it did. So I had to go to Rhode Island for the first 3 months first few months I was home. So I went to the halfway house out there for like a month, and then they put me on the bracelet at her house, and it was a rough 3 months. And as soon as that bracelet came off, I just said, nah, I can't do this, I'm out. Yeah. But it was so crazy that night, she flipped out, trying to stop me from leaving, but telling me to leave, and cops showed up, and I'm like, oh man, I'm thinking I'm going back to prison. Right. For something, I didn't even do anything. Yeah. I'm just trying to leave.
So was it like an anxious situation? Talk about that conversation I guess you're having with yourself about, damn, I'm going back to prison. I had this talk. I was telling myself for the last couple years that this is not it. Talk about that self-talk that you might have had.
Honestly, I was just so stressed out and nervous. You know what I mean? Yeah. That I'm really gonna go back over something so dumb. I didn't do anything wrong. Yeah. And I got luckily, the cop showed up quick, and, the cop was really cool, and I explained the situation to him, and, I'm like, listen, man, if you run my name, it's going to go to my federal PO. I'm going to go to jail. I didn't even do anything wrong. I just want to leave. And luckily, her daughter at that time, did the right thing and stepped up and said, listen, he didn't do anything wrong, and she backed it up, and the cop was super cool, man, and he was like, I don't want to see you be derailed. I'm like, I'm trying to change my life for the better here. Absolutely. And he said, I didn't want to see you be derailed, man, and I'm gonna, I won't do that to you. Just pack your stuff. They let me leave, but now, I'm in Rhode Island. I have no friends, no family, nowhere to go, and I'm like, well, what do I do now? You know what I mean? So I'm so angry, and just and then I made a dumb decision, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna go have a couple drinks, and figure this out. And I ended up getting drunk and called my sister out in Connecticut and was like, come get me. She come and pick me up. She gets high. As soon as I get on the truck, I started getting high. I went to Connecticut for 3-4 days, and then ended up coming back. The PO there was super cool in Rhode Island, gave me a shot and said, listen, just get back here. I'm going to send you back to Boston where you belong.
Did you end up finding work right away, or talk about some of those struggles that you had as far as finding employment, or was it not a struggle for you?
No, it was definitely a struggle finding work. Like I said, so I went back to Boston, and I went to the federal halfway house in Boston, and I stayed there for my first month. I was applying for places, applying for different jobs, and nothing's coming through. And I left there after a month. I went to a sober house. Again, like I said, I had to open state case, an old case they just would not let go. And so it made me take probation in order to get out early from the federal, to the halfway house. Mm-hmm. And that probation was a hindrance because I wanted to get into the recovery field. I knew I've always been good helping people. You know what I mean? It's just something I'm passionate about and something I've always been good at. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to help guys like myself. Yeah. And, I couldn't get a job because of that. They kept gunning me down. No, it's showing as an open case, blah, blah, blah. So what I did was, I asked my old attorney, I said, listen, man, I need you to file a motion for me, get me in a court, and I'll argue it. I'm not asking you to do none of that. I'll do all that. Yeah. And he said, all right. And he filed the motion, got me in a South Boston court, recused himself. I argued against the DA and my probation officer, and the judge went in my favor. And he was like, now go get your LADAC license, Mr. Coleman.
Okay. So when you say that they went in your favor, what do you mean? They terminated?
They terminated early.
Completely?
Yeah, terminated early.
How many years early was that?
So I think they had given me like, it was like 18 months early, something like that. Yeah, like a 3-year probation.
So I mean, talk about like what was your confidence level going in, right? You're sitting there, you're gonna go, you're about to recuse, your lawyer,
right,
and then about to represent yourself.
Yeah.
Was it just like a shot in the dark? And how did you feel after?
I felt amazing after. Like I was confident going in. You know what I mean? Like I've always been good speaking in public and stuff like that, and I've had plenty of practice with the courts. So speaking to judges and things like that, like I don't get nervous really. But yeah, I was super confident. Like I went in there like I was a lawyer. You know what I mean? And because you have to be, right? You got to be confident to really make things happen. You got to believe in yourself.
Okay. Absolutely. So, I mean, what was the next step? This opened up some doors for you just by getting that terminated?
Immediately. Like within a couple weeks of getting that termination, I had a job at a recovery center, as I worked as a recovery support specialist. And I did that for like 4 months and then applied to be a case manager there and they gave it to me.
Nice.
With no experience, no nothing, and taught myself how to be a case manager. And so if I'm being honest, like the head case manager always got pulled when she was supposed to do my training. So like I didn't get no training doing it. So I just taught myself as I went, and ended up being one of the better case managers, if not the best case manager there. Like people were requesting me coming from the street, like, hey, can I get Billy? Because I would fight for the guys like us. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you think it's important to have more case managers that maybe have been through that experience, like they're gonna fight a little harder? Do you think that gives you an edge maybe too over some of the other caseworkers as far as maybe people wanting to request you specifically? Is that the reason?
Absolutely. I think that and not to say that like, someone who hasn't lived this kind of life or gone through these things doesn't genuinely want to help. There are people that genuinely want to help that didn't go through it, but like I tell people all the time is you can't empathize with somebody truly unless you've gone through something like that, if not the same thing, something similar, right? Yeah. Like no one understands it like someone who went through it.
Absolutely.
And you kind of, what guys need a little bit more, and like I said, you work a little bit harder to make it happen for them because you were those guys, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think sometimes people might like to use the excuse too, or like an easy out, like, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. They never been an addict, or they never been to jail. So you haven't been there. That crosses at least one out off of the list for them. And it feels like that would be one of those things to be, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That would work in your favor. So what advice would you give to somebody that is getting frustrated with employment? Similar situation with you. What advice would you give to them as far as like mentally and maybe resources or people they can ask or that they might not think of? Right.
So I would say like patience, right, is huge. Like that's one of our biggest downfalls, I think, coming home, as addicts and just, people who live that street life and fast money, easy money, you know what I mean? We want everything and we want it now. You know what I mean? So, and a lot of people have the misconception, I think, that when you come home, like if you come home and just don't get high, like everything's just gonna happen for you. And that's so far from the truth.
Right.
It's a struggle, you know what I mean? And you gotta put in that work. But be persistent and be patient, right? And if you really want something, like go after it. And it will. If you put in that work and people see you put in that work, like it's gonna happen for you. And hands are gonna get extended. I tell people all the time, right? Like, so, as an addict, like I've told people my whole life, I'm gonna change, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And it never happens, right? People get tired of hearing that. And that's just the truth. Yeah. So you have to show them, so then when people see it, they're like, oh, he's serious this time. He's really doing this. And then hands start getting extended. And then, next one thing leads to another. And that's how I ended up with the job. Like I found a group of guys that were like-minded, that were meeting together, and a buddy of mine was like, hey, I work over at this, this place, man, you want a job? I was like, absolutely. Wow. And he pulled me in, you know what I mean? And then I've just been off and running.
Wow. So what are some other things that you're doing outside of work that are some positive things, helping out, giving back? I know you're doing a few things. You're a busy man.
Yeah, I'm trying to stay busy, man. I'm trying to do a lot, and right now I have my own group. It's called Don't Be a Prisoner to Your Past. And I run that group in Braintree on Washington Street. It's out of the Norfolk County Sheriff's Office. They run that program. I started that about 8 months ago. I'll say. Yeah, I started about 8 months ago. You know, what it is it's not an AA group or NA group, it's a support group. You know, it's an all-men support group. It's for guys like us, people, guys that were affected by prison life, street life, all that stuff, right? And it's a good group. You know, it helps keep us accountable to each other. You know what I mean? And like every guy that comes in, I ask them, you want to be put on the group chat? You know, and every day we check in with each other. Whether it's good morning, fellas, good afternoon, fellas, and everyone checks in, you know. And if someone's not checking in a couple of times, you know, all right, let me reach out to this guy personally, you know, because like everything that I do and everything that I'm doing now, it's never just about me. It's never about, you know, me with financial gain or notoriety or anything like that. It's about us. Like, I want to bring everybody with me, you know? Absolutely. And I'm trying to turn it into a business right now, you know, and I'm trying to make it like a life coaching company. That's my next steps. You know, I'm contracted to run groups at Dedham House of Correction through the Hope Center. Wow. And, you know, so I do that every Monday. So my goal is to be able to have them, you know, pay me through my company, and then I can go shop around to these other jails and give my card to them and say, hey, this is the company I have, this is what I do, I have other people that work for me. So now I can start taking guys from the group and say, hey, you want to go to run a group over, you know, say South Bay or Plymouth or wherever, you know, and start putting those guys in position to where they can get paid to go run these groups.
How did you get involved with running your own group? How is this something, did you already join a group and then you kind of like start taking over? Did you start it from scratch? And how did you get involved with like the sheriff's department and how that work?
So like I said, that comes down to being persistent, right? Again, like, you know, I kind of just force myself into these doors, man, you know, because it's tough for guys like us sometimes to get in there. Yeah. And so what it is, I actually found out about the Hope Center. You know, my fiance had asked me, it came up on our Facebook feed. And she's like, hey, you know about this program? It's in Braintree. I live in Braintree now, so it's like 6 minutes down the street from me. And I'm like, no, I never heard of it. And I said, they were having a comedy show for a fundraiser. I said, well, let's get tickets and go check it out. We're going to find out who it is. Found out who the director was there, went up to him, introduced myself. You know, he was like, hey, you know, we're looking for recovery coaches more in the jails and blah, blah. And I said, all right, awesome. Reached out a couple times and had some friends of mine that, you know, that are well-connected in this field. Yep. Hey, reach out to these people, man. I'm trying to get my foot in the door. And I got a meeting, and they just offered me this contract, man. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, but part of this contract, I need to use your facility on Tuesday nights to run my own personal group out here. You know what I mean? And I do that. I don't get paid to do that. The group, everything I do with this group right now is I'm putting my own money into it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So talk about why it was that you decided to, like, all right, I'm going to show up in person and get in front of these people, start opening these doors for yourself, as opposed to maybe just sitting down and just going through a list and making phone calls. Why is that in-person energy important?
It's important, I believe, because it shows people you're dedicated, right? It shows them you're serious about this. You know, if you know, I noticed that when I would fill out applications, right, or make phone calls and just sit back and wait for them to get back to me, those calls weren't coming, you know, because they don't know me. They just know what they see on paper and what they, you know what I mean? So I decided right then and there, like, okay, if this is gonna happen, like, I gotta make this happen. You know what I mean? So, and that's why I said, you know, I'm not taking no for an answer anymore. Like, I'm just gonna show up and be persistent and let them know I'm here. That's what I'm trying to do. Nice. You know?
Cool. So, I mean, how can somebody get involved with this group if that's something they want to join, or why should they get involved with your group, bro?
So any guy that wants to get involved, like I said, it's every Tuesday night, 7:30 to 8:30 at the Hope Center and on Washington Street in Braintree. And why they should is just because there's nothing like this group that I know of. I've never heard of anything like this going on, you know what I mean, outside of AA meetings and NA meetings. And, you know, not everybody, you know, everyone's recovery is different, right? I have this thing I like to say, like, your sober's your sober, my sober's my sober. You know, and like, for instance, you know, a lot of people don't know this about me, right? Because like, I felt like at AA meetings I couldn't really speak my real truth sometimes, because some people in AA don't really get it or understand it or agree with it. But like, I've been a drug addict my whole life, right? So I never abused alcohol ever in my life. Like, I could take it or leave it. I didn't care. So like, if me and my fiance go out for dinner, I can have a couple drinks with her and go home and call it a night. Like, I'm not having a couple of drinks and be like, oh, I got to call, Flacco and go see this. I don't do that, right? So, like I said, so I don't, AA is it's just not my type of recovery. I like the meetings sometimes. I like hearing the stories, but, my recovery is my recovery. And I'm a productive member of society. You know what I mean? I take care of my family. I take care of my friends. I do what I got to do every day. You know what I mean? And I'm strapping my boots on every day and getting out there and hitting the pavement, right? So I just didn't like having to explain myself all the time, So this group here, for like I said, for guys like, everyone needs support. You know what I mean? Like I said, you got to have a support system. And this group is if you don't have that support system, or even if you do have a little bit of this is just more support. Yeah. Like I said, we all check in with each other. We all help each other out, Yeah. If you need something, you can get on the group chat and say, hey, fellas, like, I'm in trouble, I need this, or, can someone help me do this? Absolutely. And we're going to be there for you, 100%. You know what I mean?
So, you seem pretty passionate about it. So, like, what's your favorite thing about doing the group, man, and getting to, help people?
Man, honestly, it's just when I hear back from someone, that I might have helped. Like, there's people that I was their case manager or their recovery coach that reach out to me and say, hey, Billy, I just want to say thank you for all your help. Like, this is what I'm doing. And they tell me all these great things they're doing. And like, there's nothing in the world that makes me feel better.
Wow.
Like, when I hear that, it's like, I'm happy for them. And I'm happy to see, that I was able to have a hand in helping them figure things out. Because I tell people, like, I'm not saving people, they're saving themselves. I'm helping them figure out how to save themselves. Absolutely. Because I needed help figuring out how to save myself.
Absolutely. So, with titles like, case manager and recovery coach, is that something that you think back to the days when you were maybe at the height of what was going on doing time that you could have ever envisioned for yourself?
Never.
These titles, case manager,
never.
Why not?
Never. Like, just the fact, like that I'm contracted to go into a jail and I'm running programs, like, and all that, like, it's so surreal to me still. Today I was just at the federal courthouse doing a workshop. I'm doing a 2-day workshop right now with the restorative justice. And like, I was invited to do that. You know what I mean? And it's like, people are like, looking for me to help do things. And, I can't even, years ago, just 5-6 years ago, like, I couldn't imagine that. Like, because before, like I said, like, I was in the streets and, at times when I'm like, people weren't, people were trying to duck me, you know what I mean? Like, like, we can't have our name attached to him, right. You know what I mean?
I get you. So talk about the process of going to the Dedham House of Correction, right? Is that something where what's the search level going in? Is there anything, are you getting searched when you go in? You got to go through a metal detector, and like the inmates you're speaking to, are these guys doing time, sentence, non-sentence, pre-trial, and like walk me through like how
right.
that goes.
Like, I go, like everyone else, you got to go through the metal detector and all that stuff, right? But and then again, it's crazy. Like so I go through. I get there and they give me, this lanyard with like a badge or whatever, like an ID with my picture on it. Like it's just wild. And then, you go through them Sally Port doors and you hear that door bang and it's like, my first time was like the anxiety was through the roof and I had to like talk myself down, like, you're leaving, relax, But then you get in there and the group of guys are all sentenced, all the guys in there, and they love it. I mean, my group just keeps getting bigger. Every week I go, there's like more guys trying, and they're like, hey, these guys are trying to sign up to get in,
Right.
So yeah, it's just crazy.
So you'd say that like it made a little nervous going in, but talk about when you left maybe that first time or even to this day, like how does that feel? I know I went to go just pick up like property at Concord from my brother, and especially having been there before, like when I left, I was almost just like so like glowing, just so grateful to be out of there, but almost that glow to kind of realize like, man, those places are just so close to being our reality, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like coming out, when I remember that first night I came out, and it was just, I just sat in my truck before I even pulled out of the parking lot. I sat there probably 5-10 minutes just looking at the building, and just thinking like, this is insane. This is crazy. But like such a good feeling that I'm trusted to be able to do that. You know what I mean? Like that somebody trusts me to be able to go in there and do this stuff and do it the right way.
What are some common, like, maybe questions or advice that they might ask for the guys on the inside, and some things that you help them out with as far as that?
So honestly, most of them ask, the most common question is, you know, housing, stuff like that, like where, you know, sober living, things of that nature, which, you know, I give guys my card when I get in there too, and I tell them that you can call me from here. If you want to call me from the payphones in there, I'm never going to not answer that phone for you. You know, if you need help, if guys are getting out soon, just call me, and I'll do everything I can to get you a place. And I've actually made some connections with like sober houses and stuff. You know, a guy that I met not too long ago got a beautiful sober home in Weymouth. And so he's, you know, I've gotten a couple guys there, and he's like, listen, anytime you need to get someone here, like, call me. So, you know.
So it seems like you've been on both sides of the coin too, as far as like addiction. You have people that you love that struggle as well, right? And then you went through it as well. So like, what advice would you give to family members of people that are struggling with addiction?
So, man, it's tough. You know, it's funny that you asked that question, because it's so tough for me. Like I'll give you a quick little story. I got a buddy of mine, right, who I just recently had gotten into the sober house I was talking about. You know, we did almost my whole Fed bid with him, right? That's where I met him in the Feds. Great guy. We just connected, and we ended up running into each other when we came home. He was in a sober house across the street from the one I was living at, and where I was, everybody was getting high. It was a terrible house. You know what I mean? And I was like, I got to get out of here. And he was living in a good house right across the street. And I ran into him at a store, and I ended up moving in. We ended up being roommates there, you know. So, and I've been working with him for like, you know, years now as his recovery coach as well. So I had gotten him into this, you know, great situation after putting him out in Springfield for a little while to kind of test him to see if he's really serious about it, because he's, you know, ran from every program I put him in. And he did great out there, man. And I went and picked him up. I got him into the sober house like 6 minutes down the street from me. You know, I'm picking him up every day to take him to appointments and stuff. Like my family accept him as family. He spent the weekend at our house, dog watching for us one time we went away. Like, you know, my fiance loves him. My stepdaughter loves him. And he's just out of the blue, man. Like a week ago, I knew something was funny. You know, he canceled an appointment, and it's not like him. He's like, oh, I'll call you later, I'm sick. And then I didn't hear from him. Yeah. And then I get the word that, you know, he tells me, listen, man, I'm not going back, you know. He just, you know, and he's out there running now, you know what I mean? And it's like, so, and like I said, my sister is in active addiction still in Connecticut, and I try to talk to her all the time. And it's like, I said to my fiance actually the other day, I said, you know, it kills me that, like, I can't get through to family, to someone I've known my whole life, you know what I mean? Right. Yet I'm able to get through to a perfect stranger sometimes, you know? So it's difficult dealing with family and that, because obviously that personal connection, right? But I would say to like family members, one, like don't ever give up on them, you know what I mean? Because anybody can change at any one time, you know? It took me I'll be 47 in November. You know, it took me a long time to figure it out, and it was a long, tough road. Wow. But I figured it out, you know, and I've made a change. So people can do it, you know, just don't ever give up on them. Don't make things easy on them, though. You know what I mean? Definitely don't make things easy on them.
Like enabling?
Yeah, don't let them, you know, live at the house, and you know they're getting high and you don't like it, and you know, but you're letting them stay there because they know they got that crutch to lean on, right? And it's a tough thing to do. But you really gotta just be kind of tough with them, or they're never gonna learn any type of lesson if they know they have you to lean on every time they fall, right? But you do it in a loving way, you know what I mean? Like you just break it down to them, be honest with them, you know what I mean? And tell them, like, listen, I love you and I don't wanna see you die, but I can't help you kill yourself. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta figure this out. And when you're ready and you start, like, I'm here, you know what I mean? And then when they do come back around, or they do get things right and they start figuring out, you know, be there for them, you know, show them that you were serious about it, because especially that's like a big thing. I feel like a lot of people say they're going to do this and they're going to do that, and then don't follow through. Like if you say something, follow through with it. You know, stand on that word.
So, I mean, thinking of like your boy, man, and what he's going through, and he might not want to like hear it, but say for instance he was happen to watch this, like what are some things that you would tell him or anybody really, you know what I mean,
Right.
struggling with addiction? Say that, you know, they're on their phone and they're watching this, and
So-
what would you tell them?
I'll tell you, I actually just called him yesterday. You know, I let him know we had talked a few days prior to that, like the last time we had talked, and he told me, you know, listen, I'm going to figure this out. You know, stop texting me. I'll figure it out on my own and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, all right, cool. And then I let a few days go by, and I called him the other day, and he didn't answer. And I just left him a voicemail, and I told him, I said, you know, listen, bro, like, I wish you had answered so I could tell you this, you know, man to man, and like you could hear me say this to you. But I'm going to leave you this voicemail, but I need you to know that, like, I don't think any less of you because you fell. Like, it happens. It's part of being an addict. Yeah. People relapse at all stages of recovery, you know? Sure. So I don't look down on you or look at you any differently, and I love you. At the end of the day, like, you're like a brother to me. You're always going to be a brother to me. And when you do figure things out or, you know, you do decide you want to come back to the side again, you know how to find me. You know where I'm at. You can call, you can swing by, hey, I need help, and I'm going to help you. I'll get you to where you need to be.
Absolutely. So also you got another thing in the mix too going on is the podcast. You're starting a podcast. Why don't we talk a little bit about that, man? Yeah.
So I'm excited. I actually just recorded my first video yesterday. It should be out soon. And you know, Maddie on the W Number podcast.
Absolutely. Big shout out to Maddie.
Good dude. Like, I did his show a couple times, and then, you know, I co-hosted one with him, and we had been talking about this, and you know, doing an episode once a week on his platform, man. And you know, I was like, that's something I would be interested in doing, man. And you know, I'd love to do like a podcast, like, you know, and have a show as much as possible, but realistically, I just don't have the time to do it right now.
Yeah.
So I can, you know, that I can do. Like, one episode a week is great. It's perfect for me. And as with everything, it'll be, don't be a prisoner to your past. And, you know, so what I want to do is focus on, with that podcast, like I put out a little introductory thing yesterday, just kind of myself, and just like a 13-minute video, I think. And just kind of let people know what to expect and what's coming. And that's, you know, my goal with that is to focus on, you know, more on the after prison, right? The struggles of coming home, and like how we just talked about with, you know, I want to have like spouses, girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever it may be, you know, on the show as well, and to talk about those struggles for them, you know, supporting us, an ex-con, an ex-addict, and all that stuff, and the, you know, the struggles they have to deal with going through that, and the changes they have to make, and the, you know. Because it's a lot of give and take, and it's a lot of sacrifice, and it's a lot of compromise, you know?
So, I mean, being so busy, right? Why is that important? And how do you balance that with also being a spouse and being, you know what, engaged? And being in a relationship and all that. So, like, how do you balance that and talk about why it's so busy?
So, it was tough initially, like, figuring out how to balance it, right? And because I'm big on, like, so me and my fiance share the same sentiments about, like, it's not about the material things. It's about the memories that we're making with each other, right? And that goes with family, you know, with everyone. And we're both, you know, big on family. You know, she's got a lot of nephews and nieces on her side that, you know, that are now my nephews and nieces, you know, and I try to spend as much time with them as I can, you know, and especially the younger ones, you know what I mean? Get involved with their sports and all that, coming to their games, you know. And I'm Uncle Bill, like, I'm the fun uncle, like, because I'm like a big little kid, right? So when we go out, like, if they're going to a jumping park, you got to get me a ticket to jump too. Right. And I'm jumping with them. You know, I'm doing everything they're doing. So, you know, it gets a little crazy and a little hectic. I've been injured many times from it, you know. But I love it, and I wouldn't trade it for the world, you know, just their faces.
Absolutely.
You know, and but I've learned to, like, so I try not to do things on the weekends. That's my family time, right? That's me and my fiance. We spend that time together and do whatever we got to do with the family and all that stuff. You know, we try to keep it that way. You know, Monday through Friday, it's hectic. You know, she she works, she's a high up. She works in the banking industry, and she's been doing that since she started at 16. But yeah, so she's got a super hectic schedule too, like very busy, very, a lot of things Monday through Friday. I'm very busy, like just running around, and so that weekend time it's important to like keep that slot. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Have a dedicated time period for that, and don't miss out on it. That makes a lot of sense. What I mean? So, what are some things you're looking forward to as far as being married? Is it getting married? Is it the wedding, or what are some things you're looking forward to in the future and being a husband?
So I'm definitely looking forward to getting married. If I had it my way, we would have got married, yesterday at a courthouse. Like, I don't care. I just want to be her husband and her be my wife. You know what I mean? Like, this is the one. So it's the first time. It's the first like normal relationship that I've ever been in. And like I said, the struggles of coming home. Like I pushed away from it. In the first couple of years we were together, and try, self-sabotage, and because I have a lot of abandonment issues and all that stuff. So in my head, I'm like, well, she's going to leave me anyway. And then I start self-sabotaging, But she's just an amazing woman, man, and she'll never take the credit, but she's 90% of the reason that I'm where I'm at today. And she makes me want to be a better man every day. You know what I mean? And I'm super excited, and hopefully, that'll be happening soon.
Absolutely, man. So yeah, congratulations on that. And you should definitely be proud of where you are at today, man, because you seem to be doing well, staying busy. You know what I mean? Keeping out of the devil's playground, man. The devil's grasp. That's what I say.
Right.
Moving targets always tougher for the devil to hit. So what are you doing as far as maybe like? As far as like mental health outlets, is it all the work that you do? Do you have any hobbies on the side? Do you work out? What are some things that you do for your mental health?
Yeah, so I love to play basketball. I was actually running a basketball fitness gym in Hanover for about a year. I had taken a step back from the recovery field after being a recovery coach for the Gavin Foundation for a little while. I had to take a step back and just like reevaluate things, like because like I said, I take this work very personal, and I tend to take my work home with me. So I'm always stressed about this guy or that guy. You know what I mean? And it's like always trying to figure out ways to help this person or that person. To the point, in the beginning, it was to the point where I would forget about me and I'd stop taking care of me. And I actually had I had to leave. I had to take off. I had talked to my fiance about it. I felt myself really getting ready to go left, and we had a talk. I almost ruined our relationship a couple times, and she just stuck with me. Like, she sees things in me that I don't always see in myself, and she genuinely believes in what I'm doing and what I can do.
Absolutely.
So we had talked, and I'm like, babe, I just got to get away, and I got to go reset and do something. So she had reached out to her stepdad, who had a house out in the Appalachian Mountains of Virginia.
Wow. And
I went out there. She said, can Billy come out there for a little bit? You got to get away. He said, absolutely. I went out there. And, he's an older guy. It was just him. And he kind of let me, come and go as I please. We talk every, now and then, have good conversations. But for the most part, he just let me do me and just be, and I'm from the project city kid. Like, I'm not a, country guy or a woodsy guy.
Yeah,
I'm out there with the walking stick, the backpack, everything, like going down these trails and just getting lost out in the woods, man. And I would write things down, things that I may not be able to say to somebody anymore. Like, for instance, my mother, she's gone. So there's things that we needed to talk about that never got that chance, right? So I would write this stuff down, and I would take it and find these beautiful clearings where you could just see 3-4 different states.
Wow.
And I would light it on fire and just let it burn it up, right? And I would say certain things out loud that I had never said to anybody out loud. You know what I mean? So, and being able to just say these things and get them out, and just facing all the traumas that I went through and taking their power away, right? Facing it, dealing with it, accepting it, and moving on, and whether it was to forgive someone or forgive myself. And I was able to do that. So like I said, 3.5 weeks down, no social media or nothing like that. I just talked to my fiance, and that was it. And then she came she came and picked me up. We ended up driving back home. She flew down and picked me up. We drove home, and I just came home like the weight of the world was lifted off my shoulders,
Nice.
you know?
Absolutely. And, you know, mental health a lot of times will go back to maybe some childhood stuff and some childhood trauma. So, I mean, what are some things that you had to like persevere through and deal with as a child? I mean, your father being a victim of murder at such a young age. I mean, I'm sure you were young enough to not really grasp it, or
No, I didn't. You know, it's crazy. Like I was 3 when he was killed. He was 19. I didn't even think. It never even dawned on me as a kid like that I didn't have a dad. Like I never questioned it as a kid, right? Until my grandmother died, because you know my grandmother had saved us from the foster care system. She ended up getting custody of us, me and my little sister. You know, so she raised us up until I was like 12. She died when I was in 12, right before I went to middle school. You know, when she died, like that was my world. Like all the morals that I have and like, you know, the way I treat people and like, you know, it all comes from her. You know what I mean? Like that all, she just put these good values and morals in me that I, you know, even at my lowest, I never forgot those morals and values. You know what I mean? And so yeah, when she died, like I actually like started to mourn my father too, and really think about it, you know?
Wow.
Yeah, it was a wild thing, man. But going through that, like, you know, not having my dad, and like I said, my mother being an addict and all that stuff, and in and out of the foster care system, and, you know, physical abuse, sexual abuse, everything you can think of. You know, like, for whatever reason, they always put me and my sister in, like, so, you know, with 2 little kids from South Boston, right? And at that time, like, racial tensions in Boston were high and all that, right? There were really no black people that lived in South Boston, you know? At that time, I didn't know of a single one at that time, right? When we were really little. And, you know, so they would put us in, for whatever reason, they would always put us in either a black foster home or a Spanish foster home. Never with white people, ever. No. So for 2 little kids that have never been around black people or Spanish people and then you hear all this crazy stuff because you're too young to know any better, right? So you're hearing what the adults are telling you. So then you get in this house and I'm like, oh my God, like we're gonna get killed here. You know what I mean? Like, and it was like, you know, I had to fight every day. I was fighting nonstop in these houses, you know, we're the only 2 little white kids in there, you know, and, you know, I remember like, going and seeing my grandmother in the DSS office for a visit, like, and, you know, I got a black eye because I got jumped the night before.
Wow.
You know, I had to save my little sister from, you know, kid threw her down the stairs and they're all cheering him on. He was going to jump down the stairs on her. And I come around the corner with like a 2x4 that was, I think the dad was like a carpenter or something. He had bundles of wood always. Wow. And I hit this kid in midair and flipped him and like had to grab my sister and run to the bathroom because it was like a stampede coming down, you know, and it was like, you know, and then we're in a Spanish foster home, and they're like, they go to a farm to buy their chickens and stuff, right? We're on like Western Mass. They would never tell us where we were. Right. And I've never seen this. Like my chicken came from Mr. Perdue at the supermarket. Right. You know what I mean? Like I didn't.
Skinned and deboned.
So
and shit.
Like this guy brings a live chicken home, puts it on the table, cuts its head off, drains the blood right in front of us. And he's like, I'm not like, oh, we're not eating that. Wow. You know, so we're eating nothing but fruit. And I get to the DSS place and I tell my grandma, like, Nana, they're killing animals at this place. She's like, what? You know what I mean? She flips out on them and they end up getting us out of there. And, you know, eventually, like I said, she was able to get custody of us and get us out of there. You know, but that, just seeing that stuff, like, is super traumatic and going through that. And then, you know, at the one foster home, like, you know, there was a woman who she was just an evil woman, man, and liked to do things to little kids that she shouldn't do, you know, and I would put myself in her line of sight to make sure that my little sister didn't get in her line of sight, you know what I mean? Yeah. I would always make sure I acted up to make her pull me into the room or whatever, you know what I mean? Yeah, because I didn't want my little sister to go through that. Yeah. You know, she was 3 years younger than me, you know, and I would have to literally threaten like DSS, like, because they would say, oh, they were going to try to split us up every time. Yeah. And I would have to threaten them, like, if you split us up, I'm going to run from every house. Yeah. But if you keep us together, I won't run, I'll stay. Damn. You know, and the crazy thing is they always took us out for no reason. Like they always, you know, the neighbor, you know, my mother was always fighting with the neighbors and stuff, and she was, you know, all 4'11" of her, like she was like a little firecracker, and you know, so she'd be beating up the next door neighbor, and they'd call and say she's beating their kids.
Yeah.
My mother never put her hand on me until I was in high school, my freshman year of high school.
Wow.
One and only time she ever hit me, and then she cried after because I made her feel bad. You know.
I mean, what was it that made her, you know, feel like you crossed the line? I mean, all these years of you kind of acting up. What was this one act that made
so? I stole. It was funny because I stole a pound of weed from her husband. It was under their bed. I found it, and it was garbage too. It wasn't even worth it. You know, it wasn't even worth it. But yeah, I stole it from there. She came up to the school and got me, and dragged me home from South Boston High School all the way down to D3 Projects by my ear. Jeez. You know, and it was just, it was the most embarrassing thing.
So talk about like high school, man. Did you play any sports? Did you end up graduating? And what was going on with you in high school? You getting in trouble?
So I was a good student. Always like, I wouldn't say I was a good student in high school because I always messed around.
Good grade.
I was very smart in school. I was always in like, you know, from elementary school up, I was always in like the smart classes, and my teachers would always, you know, tell my mother like how much potential I had, and he drives me nuts because, you know, I started joking around with his friends. And
right.
So then I get to high school, and, you know, it was kind of like downhill. Like I was already like, you know, making bad decisions at that time, you know what I mean? Like, and just rebelling kind of against the system and everybody, you know what I mean? And like, so I remember my first day in high school, like I went to homeroom and then I cut out immediately after and didn't go back for like a week, you know what I mean? And it was just in and out, like really not going to class. And, you know, I remember I had an English teacher who like, he was like, I don't get it. He was my homeroom teacher, Mr. Golden, I'll never forget him. And he said to me, he said, I'll bet you $50 you can't get an A in my class. I said, okay. So for one little semester of the year, I went every day to his class. I cut every class but his. And I got an A+. And then immediately after, the next day, I cut his class. But he paid me the $50. He paid me. He kept his word. And then he was so mad. Like, I cut the very next day. Like, I did it just to show him, like, if I want to do it, I can. Right. You know? But I was just, like I said, I was just caught up hanging out with all my friends and doing the wrong things, man, having the wrong role models, not teaching me right.
So did you have, like, the normal experience as far as, like, did you go to prom and stuff like that? And did you end up graduating on stage or at all?
It's funny. So I've been to, you know, 2 semi-formals, semi-prom, and the prom, right? None of my own. Like my girlfriend at the time, you know, we were together all through high school, so I was at all 4 of hers, you know, and never to my own. I ended up quitting. I actually ended up dropping out of high school my sophomore year. I got into some trouble, you know, and this one dean he was like, you know, I'm going to make sure you're expelled and this and that. And I was like, you know what? You ain't got to bother. I quit. And I went home. I was 16. Okay. I went home and I told my mother, I was like, because I had just actually moved back into the house. I moved out when I was 15. And I went back to the house and I was just like, yeah, I quit school today. You know, and she was like, what? And I was like, yeah, but I'm going to get my GED, which I did. I ended up getting my GED, you know, like 2 years later. Okay. I would have got it the following year, but you know, I messed up there too.
When you got your GED, was this on the street or did you get locked up and get your GED?
No, that was on the street.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was on the street. I was 17 or 18. Okay. I got my GED and I actually got to go on stage and get that GED down in like Faneuil Hall or something. They had the graduation or whatever. So that was pretty cool.
So what was next? Did you try to build off of that? Anything positive, or what was going on after you got your GED? Did you just get it to get it?
Yeah, no, I did. Like, so I got my GED just because I wanted to have a diploma, right? Yeah. And I knew I wasn't going back to high school. And I did make an attempt. Like I wanted to go to college, you know, and I did make an attempt. Like I went to Bunker Hill Community College and like talked to financial person over there, you know what I mean? It was like looking into things, and then like it just didn't, you know, other things just happened before that came to fruition, and it was all downhill from there.
So, okay, let's talk a little bit about doing time, right? You got, what'd you say, almost 5 times in the Bay. a couple state bids and then a federal bid, right?
Yeah.
If you were to attribute, you know, the reason for doing so much time to one thing, what would it be and why? Would it be addiction? And why do you think you couldn't have like got it right? Or what was the story behind that? Why so many times in and out, man?
It's a good question. So I think I would definitely attribute it to addiction. I think if I never got caught up in addiction, I don't think I would have went to prison. You know, it was, you know, once I started really getting high, like that, there was no like, you know, a bunch of little things first to lead to a big thing. It was just, I started getting high. I knew I had to get money to get these drugs. I was gonna go get that money. You know what I mean? And I just didn't care. Like I was out there just doing whatever I had to do to get that money. Like whether it was robbing, you know, drug dealers, banks, whatever it may be.
Yeah. So, I mean, what eventually leads up to you getting like a state bid? What kind of charges you fight? You start using weapons, and pretty much you're getting money by any means necessary, right? So
Yeah.
does this start happening? Weapons start getting involved. What's the escalation to doing the state time?
Now, weapons were involved kind of, you know, early on, like getting caught with weapons, and you know, I always had something on me. But it was the bank robberies is what sent me to the state sentence. Okay. You know, I started robbing banks in 2001, and then I went away later that year, 2001. I went away, and that's why I got caught for a bank robbery. Ended up doing a state sentence.
Is this unarmed, armed?
So initially, unarmed. When the very first bank I did was with a note. Right?
Okay.
I went in there with a note, and it went to armed robbery. Like, so both state bids were for unarmed bank robbery.
Okay.
Right, with notes. And then with the feds, I had 2 unarmed bank robberies and then 2 armed bank robberies. And, you know, why I decided to just go in with a gun instead, like I don't know what made me think that, but like I realized, like I found out quick, like they listen a little bit more when you do that, you know, which is a dumb reason to do it. Right. You know what I mean? But I did it, and you know, thank God nobody ever got hurt during any of these robberies. Like there's never, you know, no one's ever been hurt in any way, shape, or form, other than maybe, you know, mentally, you know what I mean, emotionally or whatever, you know, because, you know, I never really thought about.
I was going to bring that up. Is that something that you ever thought about? Because sometimes even just witnessing certain things is traumatic for people. Like, is that something you ever thought about? Like, wow, and then like you ever feel like that guilt or anything like that?
So I never really thought about it like that, like how it affected people in that way, until you know, like I had a parole. My first state sentence, I had a 2.5 to 3, and I had parole, so I seen the parole board in 2.5, and I remember the parole lady, like they had given like 13 dudes ahead of me parole, all violent criminals too. Every one of them had a violent crime, all got granted parole. So I'm like, oh, I'm definitely getting parole. I got a little 6-month parole thing, like they're giving it to me. They gunned me down. Wow. I go in there, they gunned me down. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, right? So the lady, and the reason they did was, they said they didn't feel that I put enough thought into how I affected the bank teller. And like, you know, at that time, I was actually mad about that though, because this specific instance, the bank teller lied about how much money she gave me and added $1,000 on there. So she pocketed $1,000 and said, and I know this because I counted the money immediately in the car. So I know I didn't have what she said.
Right.
And so I had said that to the parole lady. I said, well, I'm pretty sure she was okay because she pocketed an extra $1,000 on my name. Right. You know, I'm like, but then, you know, after, you know, doing like, once I started to work on myself and like figure out like this isn't the life I want to live, you know, I've definitely put some thought into that, and like, and I know now, you know what I mean? Like, it definitely affects people. You know, that's a traumatic thing to have to go through.
Absolutely. Where did you see the parole board from at this time? What facility, and like, did you wrap up from there?
Yeah, that was in Shirley Medium. I was in Shirley Medium State Prison.
Okay. So talk a little bit about that first time in state prison, and I guess what was like some of the differences you noticed from going from Suffolk County up to state prison, and like where did you go at first? Where was Concord class?
Concord,
or,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Concord. When I went there, you didn't go to Walpole, you went to Concord.
Okay.
I noticed like the first time going upstate, like, and I don't care what anyone says, right? When I seen that wall, when I first got there and I seen that wall, like I was nervous. I was scared. Like I was like, man, and, you know, and I only know the stories that I've been told by like older guys about what happens in state prison. So I'm thinking in my head, like, I may have to kill somebody, or I might get killed. You know what I mean? Like anything could happen. So you don't know. Like, you know, I was young. I was early 20s when I went upstate. So it was like, you know, you don't know what's gonna happen. So I was definitely scared. You know, and initially walking in, and that was the biggest difference I think with one of the biggest differences anyway. Like as opposed to going to county jail. Like I wasn't scared. Like going to county jail. Like I knew. You know, even though South Bay was a rough county, you know, like you get in that tank when you first get in there, and it's you know, it's like gladiator school. You know what I mean? So, but all your boys are there too. It's all the neighborhood. You know what I mean?
That's
like
your county.
Yeah, you know what I mean. You know everyone, so it's like it's a little bit different, right? And then you get upstate, and like so, like the respect level goes up a little bit higher too on the way you carry yourself. You treat like you know, county jails are loud. People are ignorant. Always banging all night long, screaming, you know, and then you get upstate and like you can't do that. You know what I mean? You can't be banging all hours of the night. You can't be, you know, when it's that lockdown after lunch for that hour, people are trying to take a nap. You can't be beating on your desk and all that stuff. Like, it's a little different, you know?
So you wrap up the state bid, and it wasn't too long before your next state bid, right? What was it, months? Like,
yeah,
I
10
guess,
months.
Walk me through, like, from getting out, I guess, you know, briefly from getting out and what eventually leads up to you going back and what happens there.
So my thing is like every time I came home, whether it was county jail, state prison, whatever it was, like, you know, I always got caught up in trying to like save my mother, save my sisters, you know, deal with their problems, their issues, and forget about me. You know, so I just come out and I'm right into it with them, and then I'm right back around the same people and in the same area. I know what's going on, so I'm like, you know, it's not long before I'm doing the same things, right? Because I'm not taking care of me. I'm not even trying to work on me. You know what I mean? Because I'm so wrapped up in dealing with all of their stuff, you know, which was the biggest difference for me coming home this time around. You know what I mean?
And I feel like the best way for you to actually help them the best is to be the best version of yourself. You can actually probably help them better by, you know, focusing on yourself first. You know what I mean? So second state bid. Do they give you more time this time? Another bank? Well, what's the sentence like?
So I get out. I go back. I get arrested again. Another bank robbery. And they gave me 5 years. They gave me 10 years on paper. They gave me, because I had a new bank robbery case, and I was still on probation for the last one. So for the violation of probation, they gave me 5 years. For the new sentence, they gave me 5 years, but ran it together. So when, you know, I did the 5 years total.
5 years total. And this time, this is not a parole bid or anything like that?
No, straight 5 in a day, wrap up bid.
Okay, so
you can earn good time, but I never did.
Right. So walk me through, like, is it still Concord? And then, like, where do you go from there? Where do you end up wrapping? Or do you go to just one place, get class and stay there, then wrap up? Do you hit any mediums, minimums, or what?
I hit a minimum my first state bid. The first one I did. I ended up wrapping up out of Plymouth Forestry.
After the parole denial?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And that was just because they needed bed space, and I had a few months left. So they were like, all right. So they sent me there.
Okay.
But no, I went to I went to Concord. From Concord, they sent me back to Shirley Medium again, and I did probably half my bid there in the hole, like in and out. You know, I definitely close to 2.5 years I got in that hole. Okay. Like I could hardly ever make it past Newman. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, what kind of things are getting you sent to the hole? Is this like, you know, you get messed up, your dirty urines, out of place, fights? What kind of all of the above?
all of the above. Like I was in the thick of everything.
Wow. So what was your longest stint in the hole? And I guess this for your whole experience. like throughout, even counting federal prison? What's the longest time you've done straight in the hole? And talk about that experience and maybe the effects that it can have on someone's mental health. So.
Right. So the longest I spent in the hole, like with solitary confinement, where it was just me, was 16 months straight.
Wow.
And then you know, and then like I've been in the hole other times, like long periods of time too, but I had a cellmate, you know what I mean, which makes things a little bit better because you actually get someone you can speak to here and there, you know what I mean, when you want. But
which would you prefer? Would cellmate or not cellmate, but you don't get to know who your cellmate is before you pick if you want to be by yourself?
So honestly, if I had to choose, I would live by myself. Yeah. I'm okay in solitary. Like I don't mind it as long as I have good books and I have my radio. Mm-hmm. You can put me anywhere and I'll be okay. You know what I mean? Because I can escape in the books. You know what I mean? Which I like to do. I love to read. When there, I got into reading a lot while I was locked up. It was something I liked to do as a kid, and then obviously fell off of it. You know, and then was able to pick it back up in jail. It's something that I wish I would start doing more out here now. Yeah, I just hardly ever have the time to do it, but I really want to get back. Like, I love to read.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear you. I think the last time this was years ago too, I had a broken phone for like a couple weeks, and I just got back into even at work, I was like ducking out to try to read the next chapter. Yeah. And I forgot how much I actually loved that shit. And so what's next as far as you get out of state prison? Okay, Shirley, you did most of the time in the hole. Mm-hmm. So you wrap up from Shirley Medium, or do they end up sending you to maximum security?
So I couldn't go to the. So I was trying to get to the max because my cousin was up there, and my cousin. So I knew like a bunch of other dudes up there too. So I was actually trying to get to the max. Like I just wanted out of Shirley Medium. Like I had enough.
Change of scenery.
And they wouldn't. I had points. I had max points. And they wouldn't send me. I had I guess multiple keepaways. Guys had keepaways on me. Okay. So I couldn't go to either side. You know what I mean?
So was this like stuff from county, or was this everything that happened in Shirley?
Honestly,
Shirley, all these keepaways?
I don't know. So they would never show you or tell you who the people are. Mm-hmm. So I know some of them obviously were probably legit. You know what I mean? Whether it was some beef that I had from wherever, but. A lot of times too, like guys will just use a name to just so they don't, because they don't want to go somewhere to a certain prison, or they, you know what I mean? Or they do want to
move on somebody or something. I can't or something.
So they just give a name like, I got problems with so and so because they know you're at that jail, or they know, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I've seen instances too where my buddy, my homeboy from the streets, him and my brother, the administration at one point, I don't know if this was in county. But they put a keep away on them because it was just getting into too much trouble.
Yeah. Oh, they'll definitely do that. Yeah.
That too, man. Yeah. So, how long in between this time now, between your second state bid and then until the feds getting involved? Are you out a little longer, or
15 months?
15 months.
Yep.
So what are you doing with these 15 months, man? Are you trying to do the right thing? Do you stop working, or do you just go right back into? Are you using right away? Talk about like the progression.
No, I was using almost. No, I tried to when I first came home. I was working. I had a job. I was doing siding with a friend of my uncle's. You know, he had got me the job. Like I was trying to do the right thing, but I was living at home with my mom at the time, and she was just, she when she would take benzos. It was like I couldn't take it. I couldn't be around her, and she'd steal my money. Whenever she was on benzos, she'd steal my money, and I'd wake up the next day and be like, "Ma," and it would be just me and her there. Right. But she'd rip the house apart looking for my money. You know what I mean? Like she didn't, and I'd be like, "Ma, you took it." You know what I mean? And, so it was like going through that stuff, and then I had to get out of there. And then so I called my sister who was sober at the time, living in Brockton, and I went and stayed with her for a little bit, and was clean out there for a few months, and then ended up relapsing. To be honest, I couldn't even tell you why I relapsed that time. I just know I ended up relapsing, and then you know, things were just bad. And then I ended up meeting up with that was after my first state bid. I'm sorry. After my second state bid, I was already with my now ex-wife. Yeah. She came in the picture 2 years into that state sentence. And, you know, we were talking or whatever, and then she asked me to marry her. She was like, "Can you get married in prison?" And I was like, "Yeah." And like, I knew her since we were kids too. My best friend, God rest his soul, Tommy, was her little brother. He killed himself in '97. That's right. You know, which is just another thing that was like super traumatic that, you know, that always bothered. Like there was a rash of suicides in 1997 in South Boston, and we were going to like funerals like every other week. And it was like 8 or 9 kids in a span of like a few months.
Is that, or it might be dating a little further back, that book All Souls? Was that based on that? I actually saw that.
Yes.
Actually, the guy down the street, he puts out books.
Yeah.
I think he gets the free ones and
right.
sells them or whatever.
Yeah.
But whatever, I don't knock the hustle.
My name's actually in that.
I wish I had to talk about it.
Yeah, my name's actually in the back of that book.
Really?
The guy, Michael Patrick McDonald, he's actually a friend of mine.
Wow.
And he was writing that book during that time. And he had helped me and a few of my friends. We started a group called Southie Survivors, and we were doing like community activism stuff, like organizing marches to City Hall and, you know, trying to bring awareness to teen suicide and all that stuff.
Wow.
And yeah, so we were doing that, and he was writing that book at that time. So he says, like, in the back, he says, "Thanks to my brothers and sisters," and he names all of us, you know. I'm actually in contact with him now, so we reconnected, so it's pretty cool.
That's one of my favorite books. Probably one of the books that got me into actually liking reading, that I read on the street, like at school, you know,
right,
from front to back, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Great book. Just the whole, you know, family dysfunction thing hit super close to home and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
Man. So now, the feds, right? Is this something where you get like the guys in the FBI jackets, they come and get you, or is this something where you're sitting and the next thing you know, a piece of paper comes, the feds want you, where you already locked up, I guess? Talk a little bit about that.
No, they came and got me. So I was, you know, I was robbing banks, and I was staying out in Rhode Island. I was staying at a hotel out there. And I was only doing, you know, the banks in Boston, but I'm crossing state lines with the money, which made it have to be federal, right? So I actually knew they were looking for me. Somebody, you know, people, they had put my picture up on the Mass Most Wanted and all that stuff. And people were calling in saying, yeah, you know, give them my name. Like a ton of people were calling in, giving my name. And they told me, the lady was like, you wouldn't believe how many phone calls I got about you, like saying it was you. But so what happened was someone had called and gave like my little sister's number or something. And so the lady, the lead Fed lady on my case, called my sister and was like, you know, "Hey, you know, this is Agent so-and-so, and, you know, you have some information about Billy Cohen." And my sister was like, "My brother?" Like, she was like, "Is this about him, like, his state sentence or something? Like, is it, like, I don't understand what this is." Right. And the lady hung up on her real quick. So my sister had called me all paranoid, like, and crying, like, "Listen, I swear to God, like, I didn't tell on you." Like, they called, and I was like, "Relax, like, I don't think you told on me." Like, "That's good, all right, at least I know now." Yeah. So I knew they were looking for me, you know. So I was staying at this hotel, and they had raided my ex-wife's sister's house. Somebody gave that address, said I was there. They raided there. Her sister and her husband told them where we were. So it was like, man, it was crazy. It was like, I don't know, like 4:30 in the morning. And I hear like the laundry cart. But I was renting a suite in the hotel, right? And I liked this hotel because they didn't bother you, they left you alone. And I'm up there, I'm renting a suite. And I hear the laundry cart at 4:30 in the morning. I'm like, who would be moving into the suite next door at 4:30 in the morning? I'm like, that's kind of odd. But then I'm like, I think I'm just bugging, right? And I'm getting high. You know, I'm doing coke at the time. I was shooting coke. And I'm like, nah, I'm just bugging. Right. So a little while goes by, like an hour and a half. I guess they were next door getting their tactical stuff ready and figuring things out. Yeah. And I'm sitting, you know, so the suite I have, like, it's a big living room and then a hallway that goes down this way and the bedroom and all that, and there's a window at the end. So I'm sitting in a chair, there's a little table, and then, you know, my ex-wife's on the other side. And she's smoking weed or whatever, and I'm getting high, and I'm shooting coke, and like, I see, all of a sudden I hear like a click, and I look up and I see like that the door thing turned, and I'm like, what the? And then the door opens and I see a shield, and then like a pistol, and then a machine gun, and then a machine gun. And I was like, oh. And I knew it was. And so initially, like, I was super suicidal at the time. You know, I was just like really depressed. Like, I knew where it was ending. Like, and I just didn't. I was just so tired. You know what I mean? And so I really didn't care if I lived or died at that time. And I had already told like my uncle and my mother, like, they're gonna have to kill me. I'm not going back. And so I had a taser on the table next to me, and my first thought was to grab it and just point it, and hopefully they'll shoot.
Right.
And then, like, in a split second, like, I just thought, like, I didn't want to do that to her daughters, right? I didn't want to be the reason she got killed because of what I was doing, right? So I jumped up and I just took off down the hallway, and they came in and chased me through the hotel room, and I dove for the window. I'm on the 5th floor, and I dove for the window, and like the federal agent, like, open field tackled me and like hit my feet and kind of knocked me sideways, and I bounced off of like the windowsill, hit the ground, and, you know, they started wrestling me, got me cuffed and all that stuff, and you know, got me cuffed and then got me to admit everything, you know.
So, where do you go from there now with federal charges? Do they send you to Plymouth, or are you able to stay in? Is this case out of Boston? Is it Nashua Street?
The case is out of Boston, but I went, so that I ended up going to the federal holding in Rhode Island to Wyatt.
Oh, okay.
And they let me go there. You know, I'd asked the agents, the arresting agents, when they were doing my fingerprints and all that, because like I said, like, once they had me, like, they had me. I was like, whatever. You know what I mean? And they were like, you know, sign these pictures, say this is you, and we won't charge her with anything. We'll let her go. And I was like, all right, give me the pen. I mean, I did it. And I signed them, said I did it. So they were like, you know, he was super cooperative with us. Like, didn't give us a hard time, you know what I mean? Once we settled, and I was just like, you know, they were like, I was like, listen, if you don't mind, guys, if it's possible, if you could, like, put in a word, you know, instead of sending me to, like, Middleton or something like that, can you send me over here to Wyatt? And they were like, all right, and they did. They sent me to Wyatt.
Okay, so what's Wyatt like? Is it all just like a federal holding? Because I know Plymouth has, like, when I was in Plymouth, they had, like, Fed guys that were waiting. A couple guys, actually, what's his name? Mark Marchese, rest in peace, from Everett. Billy Bryant. It was like right before. It was 05. It was right before. And this is one of the things too, where I saw these guys coming back, and I'm a 19-year-old kid, and they're like almost not smiles, but like saying they made out. Right, 20 years, you know what I mean?
Right.
I was like, holy crap, bro.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm sitting there showing my little, you know, stupid charge.
Yeah.
You know. But it's one of those things, man. But is that like how Wyatt is? Is it like mixed with Rhode Island guys, or is it all strictly
all
federal?
Fed, just strictly federal holding. But it's like a county jail. It's like being in a county jail. Same like setup, you know, with the day room and all that stuff, a little rec deck and all that stuff.
Wow. Okay.
But, yeah.
So eventually, what? Now you go in front of the courthouse. You go to the courthouse and take a plea bargain. What's that? How does that work?
Yeah.
With the
So
federal
it's a
judge?
process with the feds. Like, I remember, like, because I tried to cop out to 10 years. Like, right at my arraignment. And I was like, I'll take 10 right now. And my lawyer was like, listen, this isn't state court. That's not how it works. Like, you got to let us do our job. It's a process. So I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Which is what I ended up getting anyway at the end. So it was the 10 years. They asked for 20. The DA asked for 20. My lawyer asked for like 6. And my lawyer, she was a great lawyer. She was like a public defender, but she was just really great. Like, went above and beyond to do her job, and you know, found all the stuff that I was doing in 1997 with the suicide thing with Mike McDonald and all them.
Yeah.
Like, it's all, you know, you can go online and look it all up. And so she found all that stuff and talked to Mike McDonald actually about me. And yeah, so, you know, that all goes in your favor, right? And you know, like I said, she asked for the 6 and they asked for 20, and the judge, I had like all the stars lined up for me. Like, I had like the best judge that you could get at the time. He's dead now. God rest his soul. Judge Toro. His nickname was Let Him Go Joe. Right? Joe Toro was his name. And my lawyer was like, he just doesn't like to give time, you know? So I had him, and she was like, and you have kind of a dummy prosecutor, like, you know, because I fell under some law, I guess, like a 3-strike law that the feds have. So because it was my 3rd time going away for bank robberies, like he could have pushed for a life sentence if he really wanted to. And she was like, I just don't think he knows he can do this. Right. And I'm like, well, let's get this wrapped up before he does, you know. And
that's wild. So talk a little bit about being at Wyatt now, right? It's a far cry from Nashua Street, right? But I mean, is there other like masked guys? Is it just like Rhode Island, New England, or are there New York
Yeah.
guys, or how does that work? Is it like Northeast region?
Couple New York guys come through there, but mostly it's like Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Mass. You know what I mean? A lot of Connecticut guys are there, a lot of Rhode Island guys.
All right. So then you get your sentence, and how does classification work in the federal system? Similar point system, or how does it go?
Yeah, so they go by your age, you know, your crime, your record, all that stuff. Points like so. Like if you're a young dude and like you've been in trouble for a long time, you're definitely going to the penitentiary. Yeah. And once you get in them pens, it's hard to get out of them, you know, because like you have to put in work. Everyone has to put in work when they get there, at least one time. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, you just get caught up in all this stuff that's going on in there and the politics of it all, and like it's so hard to get out of it. You know, like I went to the penitentiary and I wrapped up from the penitentiary.
I was gonna ask, is that what right from classification? Like, and what was like? Is this anything that you know at the time? Do you figure you're going to the pen? Do you even know like about like penitentiaries and how real it can get at this point? I'm sure you heard some things.
I mean, you know, you hear a lot of stuff, you know what I mean, from guys that have been there. You hear how things go in the feds, but like, you know, so you're getting classified while you're in transit, you're in a holding, right? So I ended up, typically you go to Brooklyn from Mass, like they send you to Brooklyn over there to the holding, and you go there, like, I went, depending on where you go, I guess, because I went to Philly instead, and I ended up out in West Virginia. I went to Hazelton in West Virginia. So I went to Philly. I sat in Philly for like 4 months, man, and they're waiting for a bus, you know, to come to pull up and take me, and then you know, it's like a county jail there too. Same thing.
While you're waiting, like in Concord, they give you, you know, they say where you're going, and then they might modify you or whatever. Do they tell you where you're going before you go, or do they just tell you you're going to a pen? That's it. You
just know you're going to the pen. They don't tell you until that day when you get on the bus. Once you're on the bus, the guy on the bus will tell everybody where they're going. Mm-hmm. You know, because they do that. Obviously, they don't want guys to know ahead of time where they're going. Okay. You know, escape threats and all that stuff.
Okay, so I guess talk about like when you first get there to Hazelton, and what's that like, man, and what's going through your mind? Like how old are you at this point?
Man, I was in 2012. I was about 30. Jeez, I was at 37, something like that.
A couple state bids in, a little bit seasoned at least.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Yeah, definitely had, at least knew how to carry myself, and you know what I mean, and how to do time and how to navigate, you know. But like the politics are very different in the feds. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy the way things go. Like when I first got to Hazelton, you know, that you go through the process of, you know, getting there, and like you got to see all the nurses and the doctors and all that stuff, right? And then they have you see the SIS, which is like the IPS upstate, right? Mm-hmm. So the SIS guy interviews you, and he's like, you know, who do you run with? They find out who you run with. You know, you're in the Boston car. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm from Boston, so I guess so. And he's like, all right, well, you know, your guys will tell you how everything runs when you get out there. And he said to me, he said, but I will give you this little advice. You know, he said, I would suggest getting a knife as soon as you can. And he said, because it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. No. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, all right. No, like, this is a cop telling me that. No. And I'm like, this is crazy.
That's insane.
And then like a week later, I watched the Mexicans kill somebody right in front of me. So I was like, okay, this is where we're at.
I mean, what's going through, like, what's going through your mind at that point? Like, you're there, you know, 10 years, but you still, you know, you got light at the end of the tunnel, man. You still get out fairly young age.
Right.
What goes through your mind? Stuff just got real, and like talk about that.
Yeah, well, I seen that, like, so like I had seen stabbings in state prison, like I had watched, like, and you know, like it's not normal to witness this stuff, right, and not have a reaction, like, but like you see it, I guess when you grow up in these places, right, and you see it so often, it's like, you know, you just mind your business. It's got nothing to do with you. And so like you don't get up and you don't run, you don't move, right. So it's just, I'm sitting there playing cards, watching this happen. Like, this is crazy. Like, you know, and so I'm like, yeah, this is where I'm at. Like, this is nuts. Like I made, and that's why, you know, fresh 10 years, you know, I'm like, I might not come home. Like, I might not make it home. Yeah. You know, whether someone kills me or I kill them or however it goes, like, there's a very real possibility I don't make it out of here. Yeah. You know, and that's why, like, I was getting high early on and, like, just doing whatever because, like, I was like, well, you know, this is going to be my life maybe forever, you know?
Damn. So, I mean, you get there, is there anybody that you know when you get there, or at least some guys from the neighborhood, and how does that work? Like, how do you know, like, is it like Walpole where you got a certain table to sit at, you know? Or
yeah.
Talk about that.
Yep. So you have, like, so right when you get there, like, so we got there late, right? It was crazy because it was another Southie kid that was in Philly with me that I hadn't seen him forever. And I knew him when we were kids. We hung out when we were kids. I hadn't seen him forever, and he looked a lot different. Mm-hmm. But, like, I knew he was a Boston guy. Every time I walked by him, I'm like, this dude's a Boston guy. I know he is. And then, you know, one day, like, he slid in. It was like breakfast. I was with this kid Matty from New York. I hung out tough with him in Philly. We're eating breakfast, and, like, he slides in the booth, and he's like, what's up, kid? Can I get some extra chicken? I worked in the dining hall, and I'm like, buddy, do I know you? It's 6 in the morning right now. And he's like, oh, it's me, it's Rob. You know what I mean? I was like, oh my God. I was like, dude. So, and then we ended up going to Hazelton together in the same cell, same unit, same cell.
Oh, wow.
And it's like 2:30 in the morning when we finally hit a unit and get to the cell. So, you know, everyone's sleeping, locked in. So we get in the cell, and, like, there's Latin King stuff all over the cell. So I'm like, yeah. And now he's never really done time other than county time. So he don't really know. And I could tell he's a little nervous, a little apprehensive, right? Which is normal. Yeah. And, you know, I'm like, yeah, this is probably not going to be our cell, bro. Like, tomorrow they're probably going to have us move, I think, you know. And so we get up, the doors cracked the next morning, and, like, I could tell he was down there, like, waiting. He was on the bottom bunk, like, he was waiting for me. Like, he's like, hey, you up? And I'm like, yeah, buddy. Like, get dressed, get ready, get out so I can get ready, you know. So we come out, hit the unit, and, like, you know, Spanish dude grabs us. He actually ended up being from Boston, dude, project, good dude, was my guy. He grabs us. He's a Latin King. He grabbed us and was like, hey, you know, it's a Latin King cell. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, I got you. Yeah. So we went down, and there's no Boston guys for like white guys on the unit. But, like, so these dudes grabbed us, like, these gang members, like Aryan Brotherhood of Texas was on that yard. And, you know, some of them come over to us and like, oh, we'll show you your Boston homies when we go to the chow hall, whatever. Okay. So they link us up with, like, Freddie Gears and them guys that were there. And, you know, they give us the rundown of, like, you know, what you can and can't do. And it's like, I said, it's very different. Like, they were like, you know, there's a no hands-on policy, meaning you can't fight another race unless it's sanctioned. So, like, if a black guy or a Spanish guy or whatever calls me a bitch, I can't do anything about that unless I get permission. Right. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen, bro. I'm like, I'm letting you guys know now. Like, I'm swinging on somebody right then and there, no matter who they are, what they are, and I'll deal with the repercussions after, you know? And then, like, the other thing is, so, like, you know, they're like, oh, you're not, you know, you're supposed to, you know, you're on white time. Are you on white time or you're on black time? You know what I mean? So there's the Boston white car and then the Boston black car. Oh, okay. But, like, we always stuck together. Everywhere I've been with in the feds, anyway, like, it was all like, if something was jumping off with me and anyone, and it was like black Boston dudes, Spanish Boston dudes, whatever, like, they were there. You know, like, we like, we're right, like, what's up? Yeah. You know, and vice versa. Right. You know, and I made it clear, like, you know, if I'm walking down the walkway and I see, you know, some black dude from Boston that I know, whatever, or whether I know him or not, I know he's from Boston, and he's getting jumped on the walkway by 3-4 guys, whether they're white, black, Spanish, whatever. I'm jumping in and helping him because I know him. I'm gonna see him when I go home. Right. I don't know these guys from Missouri and Kentucky and wherever. Like, I don't know them. You know what I mean? So I don't have an allegiance to them. You know what I mean? And it's just, that's been me my whole life. You know what I mean? Like, I mess with everyone, right? I don't care what color you are. I mess, you know, with people who carry themselves certain ways. You know what I mean? And if I see you're a respectful dude and you carry yourself the right way, then that's who I flock to. You know what I mean? Like, and you know, listen, I've been in jail where I didn't have a single white dude come up to me and offer me so much as a soup when I first walked in the door. Yeah. And had 4 or 5 different black guys coming to me with bags of commissary. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, no, absolutely. So it's like there's good on every race. There's bad. Like, I don't like to play that game.
It was the same way, you know, being from Cambridge and then going upstate. There was a lot of black Cambridge dudes that I know from school, from basketball, that I might have even hung out with personally, as we'll call them friends, you know what I mean? And then some of the guys kind of would look at, well, why you always hanging out with the black dudes? I'm like, bro, I know these dudes from the street. Like, I know this dude 20 years. This dude, I used to have sleepovers with him, whatever it may be.
Of course.
Like, I knew what time, like, where to sit, what time it was.
It's same,
went down, but I'm not going to not talk to people that I know personally, you know, that knows my mom and stuff, bro. Like,
and I would tell, same thing. I would tell guys, like, you know, listen, when it comes down to it, you know, I am a white guy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm a white guy. So,
that,
you know, I sat at the white table and you know what I mean? Like, and all that stuff. And if a riot breaks out, a race riot breaks out, I know what side I have to be on. Right. And the black dudes that I'm cool with, they know what side they have to be on. You know what I mean? And it's no different, you know?
So talk a little bit about what do they got going on as far as like programs and education in the penitentiary? I take it it's not much if it's anything like maximum security.
No, not much. It's crazy because they say, you know, like the state and stuff, they say they have this program, that program, but then you go to take that program and they're like, oh, we don't have no one to teach that program. Right. It's like, then what do you have on your thing for saying you offer it? You know what I mean?
Damn.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you did with yourself or did with your time to try to improve yourself with there not being programs or anything like that? Read and work out, you know what I mean? And like, you know, my first 8 years was, you know, I was just getting into stuff. Like I went to a smooth program and stuff for getting in trouble, you know what I mean? Like, and then like I said, the last 2 years is where I just kind of really buckled down though and just kind of kept to myself for the most part. Like I had a little poker table. I ran a little table to make money and stuff. So I'll just play cards all day and then like read, hang out with my boys, kid from Rhode Island, kid Bobby. Worked out with him, super good kid, didn't get high and stuff, you know. Absolutely. So you had also mentioned before too that is this when your mother had passed away or somebody had passed away while you were in prison? And talk about like how do you deal with that, man? Because you know somebody passing away that when you're in prison, I feel like it's tough to deal with, especially because you're not seeing them every day. Right. So it's like it doesn't sink. I don't know. Talk to me about that, man.
So it was in 2014. My mother died in October, and it was the first time I ever cried, like out in public, like on a unit. You know what I mean? Like in front of anyone, because like you know, in prison, like you can't show those kind of emotions, right? People perceive it as weakness, this, that, and the other thing, right? So it just invites a lot of headaches that you really don't want to have to deal with. So you know, I would always just stuff that stuff down. But you know, when she died, you know, I found out, like, I got an email saying about it. Like, and that's how I found out, was like on an email. I opened up in my email, and I seen, like, you know, I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but you know, your mother died. So I ran right to the phone, and I called my brother, and, you know, he confirmed it. You know, and I hung the phone up and just stood there, like, and this, like, tears just started coming. And, you know, I remember my boy, you know, he was a GD from Missouri, Little Folk, all right, old black dude, like same height as me, like had the same tattoo as Tyson on his face and stuff, right? This was my guy, man. Like from day one, we just clicked. And like he just looked over and he seen me, you know, he was on the phone next to me and he seen what was going on. He's like, bro, you good? And I was just like, nah. Like, no, I'm sorry, no. That was when I spoke to my mother. I'm lying. That was the one and only time I spoke to my mother, right? During my fed bid, like I hadn't, you know, I just got her by accident on the phone. And I remember her telling me like, I'm gonna do everything I can to make sure like I have an apartment, a place for you to live when you come home. And I was just like, Ma, like I don't need you to do all that. Like I just need you to be okay. I need you to take care of you. Like I just need you out there. You know what I mean? That's what I need. And yeah, man, I started crying, man, and just, he was like, bro, you okay? Like, and I'm like, nah, my God, I think that's the last time I'm gonna ever talk to my mother. Wow. And he was just like, man, she's gonna be all right. Like, I'll pray for her, man. And he was like, He was like, "Oh, go in the cell. Don't let them see that." You know what I mean? Like, don't let them see that.
Wow.
And I did. And a week later is when she died. Like a week, 2 weeks later, tops. I got that email saying she died, and I just sat there looking at the computer, like, is this real? I'm like, there's no way no way I'm finding out like this.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I confirmed it was real, and I went to my cell and was like, told my cell, like, bro, I need the cell. And I put the towel up and I just cried and cried, you know, and just let it all out. Yeah. But like that was the most I got to mourn her. Like I never really mourned her while I was there. I didn't, you know, it's not the space to do it. It's not, you don't have the place to do it. You don't have that privacy to do it, you know, and you have to be, you know, you have to be who you are in there. You know what I mean? You have to put on that mask and, you know, it's every day as usual.
That's tough, man. I always dread the day. I'm close with my mom, man. You know what I mean? I love her. So God bless her, you know. May she rest in peace, bro.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, so you got on the phone with your brother and talked to him, and he kind of confirmed that everything.
Yeah, he was, you know, he was pissed that I found out that way. That I found out over, over the computer and email.
Does it feel like dehumanizing almost? Like, or like how would you describe that feeling of like, damn, this is how I find out?
I felt like super disrespected by it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you didn't think enough of me to be like, you know what? Let me call the jail, get them on the phone. And tell them at least that way. You know what I mean? Like you just shoot me an email and tell me that.
Who sent you the email? Is this from
my ex-wife?
So this is okay.
Yeah, my ex-wife. That was her way.
Wow.
That was her big, you know, way of telling me.
Wow.
Shoot me an email.
So eventually, last couple of years, you start locking in. You start doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
You get clean. I mean, you get clean. What does that do? You like kick what you're doing? Like. Cold turkey or what's that process like?
Just stopped. I was like, that's it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's over. Like after I had, like I said, I woke up that day and that just hit me and I said, you know what? Like it's a wrap. Like I'm done, you know?
You ever feel like while you were like kicking and like were you getting sick? Do you ever feel like this is like a weakness almost? Like, damn, what if somebody tests me right now? So I feel if I get like a stiff neck in jail, I'm like, damn, today will be the day, of course. That's someone's gonna test me or something.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know what I mean? No, absolutely. You know, you think, you know, I would just stay, like I stayed in myself for a few days and just kind of fell back away from everyone, get myself together, you know?
I mean, how long until you started to feel good and then like talk about like what changed mentally? When you started, is your routine start getting different?
Yeah, routine definitely. So it took me probably like, you know, a good like 4 or 5 days before I was like, started feeling like, all right, you know what I mean? Like, I'll be fine, you know what I mean? You know, like I was mainly doing like, you know, the Suboxone in there, like, you know, messing around with the K2 before it got all that wacky K2 stuff they were getting. Like when it was actually like, it was kind of like weed, you know what I mean? Like, but, you know, and drinking, whatever, like making wine and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Just anything really, like whatever came through. If it was there, I was in crystal meth. I never did crystal meth on the street in my life.
Wow.
I did it in the feds. You know what I mean? Like, because it was readily available. We had a lot of California dudes on the yard, and so that's what was coming in. You know, you know, heroin, all that stuff.
At any point, do you see like any possibility of maybe like stepping down to a lower level yard, or did you just at some point know you're gonna be sitting in independence?
Yeah, I knew I was stuck. I told that to my boy, the kid Rob that I went with. Like I said it to him on the bus, you know, on the way there. I said, bro, if you can make it to an FCI, dude, like make it to an FCI for sure. I was like, I'm gonna live in the penitentiary until I go home. You know what I mean? If I go home.
So why is that? Is it not a case where like points start to drop after so long, or is it just you stay?
Well, they can't
because of the nature of the place. Or?
Yeah, so your points definitely drop after so long. You can get your points down, and but you know, just the nature of like the beast. You know what I mean? Like just getting caught up in all the shit, man, and just it's really tough to get out of there. You know, especially if you're around. You know, some guys don't want you to get out of there either because they can't get out of there. You know what I mean? And that happens a lot. And people sabotage a guy that might be going home and send him on a dumb mission. Like I would volunteer to do things for a guy.
Right.
If I knew, he was about to go home or he had some, go to a lower level or whatever the case may be, like I was that type of dude. Like I would just be like, no, I got that. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna ask someone to do something like that.
Absolutely. Damn. So eventually you do end up getting out, man, and I guess doing all this time, man, wherever you've been to, man, like what are some things that you learned about yourself during all this time to self-reflect?
So one of the biggest things I've learned about myself, recently is, people think that they tend to see me as confident, bordering on like cocky. Like if you ask my fiance, she'll tell you I'm cocky. But I show that people tend to see that because that's what I let them see. And but I've come to find out that really I'm scared to death. You know what I mean? And I'm not so sure of everything. I have a huge fear of failure. That's why it's so important for me, like, to do the right thing with like this group and everything I'm trying to do with it, and to do it the right way, because like I can't, I can't let it fail. I have to succeed in this because it's the first thing, it's the one and only thing in my life really, like, it's something that like that's mine, and it's something positive and something good that I'm trying to do, and it's mine. Like I'm doing this, I'm running it the way I want to run it, and I'm putting the people that I want in position, you know what I mean? So it's like, people are depending on me with this, you know what I mean? And it's something that I can't let fail, and I have a huge fear of that, of things failing on me, like I started to write my book as well, and like I got the title for it, I got some chapters written already, like, and then I just kind of fell off of it, over the last few weeks, and like, my fiance kept like trying to get on me, like she tries to push me, but she's like, like, hey, you got the book too, like you could take some time to do your book today, and like, and I wasn't doing it, and then finally like it just came out, and I was like, I can't do it right now, like I just can't, and like I don't know why, you know what I mean, like I don't know, again, it comes down to that fear of I'm not going to do it right, or I'm going to fail at it, or it's not, you know what I mean? Like, and
Is it a fear of feeling like not doing it right? Like, is it going to let yourself down in your expectations? You feel like maybe you're fearful of letting other people down, or what do you think it is about that?
So a lot to do with letting other people down. I don't want to let people down, you know what I mean? And definitely, I would say it's probably like 50-50, you know what I mean? Like, because I have a lot of expectations on myself as well. And, but like the people that are really in my corner, my closest like friends and family, like, they, like say, like my fiance, for instance, like she sees things in me that I don't see in myself sometimes, right? And, sometimes I feel like I'm not this guy she thinks that I am, or thinks that I can be. Like sometimes I don't believe that I can be that, and it's like, and it hurts me because I don't want to let her down, you know what I mean? Like I want to, and my son as well, like I have a son who don't talk to me right now. Like, I've only seen him a couple times in his life. I've been gone forever. He grew up in Florida with his grandfather, and like, at the end of the day, I want him to, whether he talks to me ever or not, I want him to be able to look back and be like, you know what? Yeah, my dad made mistakes, but he was genuinely a good person, like, and he really did something good with his life. You know what I mean? Absolutely. That's super important to me.
For sure, man. So what's the main message you would want someone to get out of hearing you tell your story? What's the main message in it?
Don't ever give up on yourself, man. Don't ever give up on yourself. And when people that you genuinely care about, genuinely care about you, when they tell you they see these things in you, they're not just telling you to tell you that. They're telling you because they believe it and they see it, right? So you just learn to believe that yourself. Learn to love yourself. Learn to, give yourself that grace that, I made a lot of mistakes and I screwed up a lot, but I don't have to be that person. My past doesn't have to define me. You know what I mean? Today I can be whoever I want to be.
So,
and I'm sorry, and also real quick, I wanted to also put in there for any women that are going to hear this, or any women out there listening. So there is an all-female Don't Be a Prisoner to Your Past group getting ready to start soon. I recently just connected with a woman who has done some time, and she's been out for about 6 years sober, doing the right thing, works in the field, and she's more than willing to run a group for and under the same name, and so that because I think women need it just as much as men need it. You know what I mean? So in some cases, even more.
Yeah, for sure. The women get overlooked a lot as far as like the prison genre and population.
No, absolutely.
For sure. I mean, I just had a beautiful woman in here the other day, so yeah, it's good to get a different side of things. For sure, bro. So that's cool that you're doing that, man, for sure.
Yeah.
So also, why is it important for you to come and tell your story like you've been doing? Like you came and seen Maddie W.
Right.
You came up here, and I appreciate that. Why is it important for you to tell your story?
So it's important for me because I truly believe that, like, my story is an absolute success story, right? It's a story of perseverance, struggle, and but most importantly, like, triumph. You know what I mean? Like, everything that's been thrown at me my entire life, like, I'm getting over all that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm moving on and I'm doing something better with my life. Yeah. And it's important, I think, for guys like myself and women, to hear these kind of stories from because there's a lot of guys out there right now that are, getting into the reentry field, the recovery field, or whatever it may be, and doing the right thing, man, and trying to help others, right? And I think that it's important for guys to not just, hear about the things that I did when I was in prison and all that stuff, but what I'm doing now, what I'm doing at home, and so they could see, like, well, if this asshole can do it, I could do it too, right? You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely, man, too. So, I guess if there was any last words or anything you wanted to touch on, maybe we didn't get a chance to before I let you go, or some a message to the youth or whatever it may be to close this out, man. If there's anything you wanted to talk about, man, now's the time.
Yeah, I mean, just like I said again, like just believe in yourself, man. Don't be afraid to be who you are, right? Don't conform to the cool kids or then be a certain way because everyone expects it or thinks that's how you're supposed to be. Be who you are. And if people don't like you, so what? Chances are you probably don't like them either. You know what I mean? But be who you are. Be true to yourself, man, and just try to be kind to the next man or the next woman. Like, I wake up every day and I had this is my rule. I wake up every day and I have 3 things. I tell myself 3 random strangers, 3 random acts of kindness. Whether it's holding a door for an old woman, helping a kid get his ball out of the street, whatever it might be. And if you do 4, 5, 6, 7 things, then that's just a blessing on top of it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I always look at like those situations with like if it's an old lady crossing the street or a young girl, like how would I want to treat someone in my family of that age? Maybe like how would I want someone to treat my grandmother? How would I want someone to treat my niece and move like that, bro? So I'm sure people might be interested in buying merch or anything like that. Is that something you got any plans on in the future? And I guess, like, where can the people find you as far as social media goes and everything?
So as far as the merch, I haven't really thought too much about that. Like, I do have stuff that, like, I have tables at recovery events and stuff. I end up getting a table there, and I have stuff that I give out, the bracelets and stuff like that. Okay, nice. And where you can find me, TikTok, Instagram, it's Billy the Kid 617. It's BILL_Y the Kid 617, and on Facebook. Absolutely.
And I'll link all of that in the description, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Also, I'm sorry, sorry.
Go for it.
My website as well is www.don'tbeaprisonertoyourpast, all one word.com. It's under construction, but up and running. I have a group on there called the Wellness Warriors. Awesome. You could jump on there. It's just a bunch of random people on there right now, and you could ask for, help with resources, whatever. Start a conversation, do whatever you want.
And I'll I'll put the links to all. I'll have you send me the links, and I'll
Yep.
put the links in the description, so you guys could just click the link below in the description. And guys, remember, I'm B. Luke. Billy Coleman with me right here, man. I appreciate you for coming through. Remember, it is what it is. What's next is what you make it. And on that note, we're out of here. Peace. Ain't got a moment when they see you down the